I was thinking something's missing. മൗനവ്യാഖ്യാ പ്രകടിതപരബ്രഹ്മതത്വം വിജുവാനം വരിശിഷ്ടാന്തേ വസദൃഷിഗണൈഃ ആവൃതം ബ്രഹ്മനിഷ്ഠൈഃ ആചാര്യേന്ദ്രം കരകലിതചിന്മുദ്രമാനന്ദരൂപം ആത്മാരാമം മുദിതവദനം ദക്ഷിണാമൂർത്തിമീഡേ വടവിടപി സമീപേ ഭൂമിഭാഗേ നിഷന്നം സകലമുനിജനാനാം ജ്ഞാനദാതാരമാരാത് ത്രിഭുവനഗുരുമീശം ദക്ഷിണാമൂർത്തിദേവം ജനനമരണദുഃഖച്ഛേദദക്ഷം നമാമി. ചിത്രം വടതരോർമൂലേ വൃദ്ധാ ശിഷ്യാ ഗുരുർയുവാ ഗുരോസ്തു മൗനം വ്യാഖ്യാനം ശിഷ്യാസ്തു ഛിന്നസംശയാഃ നിധയേ സർവവേദ്യാനാം ഭിഷജേ ഭവരോഗിണാം ഗുരവേ സർവലോകാനാം ദക്ഷിണാമൂർത്തയേ നമഃ. ഓം നമഃ പ്രണവാർത്ഥായ ശുദ്ധജ്ഞാനൈകമൂർത്തയേ നിർമ്മലായ പ്രശാന്തായ ദക്ഷിണാമൂർത്തയേ നമഃ. ഈശ്വരോ ഗുരുരാത്മേതി മൂർത്തിഭേദവിഭാഗിനേ വ്യോമവത് വ്യാപ്തദേഹായ ദക്ഷിണാമൂർത്തയേ നമഃ. വിശ്വം ദർപ്പണദൃശ്യമാനനഗരീ തുല്യം നിജാന്തർഗതം പശ്യന്നാത്മനി മായയാ ബഹിരിവോർഭൂതം യഥാ നിദ്രയാ യസ്സാക്ഷാത് കുരുതേ പ്രബോധസമയേ സ്വാത്മാനമേവാദ്വയം തസ്മൈ ശ്രീഗുരുമൂർത്തയേ നമഃ. ഇദം ശ്രീദക്ഷിണാമൂർത്തയേ. ബീജസ്യാന്തരിവാങ്കുരോ ജഗദിദം പ്രാങ്നിർവികൽപം പുനഃ മായാകൽപിതദേശകാലകലനാ വൈചിത്ര്യചിത്രീകൃതം മായാവീവ വിജൃംഭയത്യഭിമഹാ യോഗീ വയസ്വേച്ഛയാ തസ്മൈ ശ്രീഗുരുമൂർത്തയേ നമഃ. ഇദം ശ്രീദക്ഷിണാമൂർത്തയേ. യസ്യൈവ സ്ഫുരണം സദാത്മകമസത് കൽപ്പാർത്ഥകം ഭാസത്തെ സാക്ഷാത് തത്വമസീതി വേദവചസാ യോ ബോധയത്യാശ്രിതാൻ യത്സാക്ഷാത്കരണാത് ഭവേന്ന പുനരാവൃത്തിർഭവംഭോനിധൗ തസ്മൈ ശ്രീഗുരുമൂർത്തയേ നമഃ. ഇദം ശ്രീദക്ഷിണാമൂർത്തയേ. നാനാഛിദ്രഘടോദരസ്ഥിതമഹാ ദീപപ്രഭാഭാസ്വരം ജ്ഞാനം യസ്യ തു ചക്ഷുരാദികരണദ്വാരാ ബഹിസ്പന്ദതേ जानामीति तमेव भान्तमनुभात्येतः समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये यस् स्त्रीबालान्धजटोपमास्त्वहमिति भ्रान्ताभृशं वादिनः मया कल्पितविलासकल्पितमहा व्यामोहसंहारिणे तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं राहुग्रस्तदिवाकरेन्दुसदृशः मायासमाच्छादनात् मात्रकरणोपसंहरणतो यो भूसुषुप्तः पुमान् प्रागप्स्वाप्समिति प्रबोधसमये यः प्रत्यभिज्ञायते तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बाल्यादिष्वपि जाग्रदादिषु तथा सर्वास्वस्थास्वपि व्यावृत्तास्वनुवर्तमानमहमित्यन्तःस्फुरन्तं सदा स्वात्मानं प्रकटीकरोति भजतां यो मुद्रया भद्रया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये चुम्बश्यति कार्यकारणतया स्वस्वामिसम्बन्धतः शिष्याचार्यतया तथैव त्वध्यात्मना भेदतः जाग्रतिवाय एष पुरुषः मायापरिभ्रामिदः तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये पूरम्भास्य निलो निलुम्भरमहर्नाथो हिमांशुः पुमान् इत्याभाति चराचरात्मकमिदं यस्यैव मूर्त्यष्टकम् नान्यत् किञ्चन विद्यते विमृशताम् स्यादीश्वरत्वं ऐश्वर्यमव्याहतम्. We read at 24th verse. प्रज्ञप्ते सन्निमित्तत्वम् अन्यथा द्वयनाशतः संक्लेशस्योपलब्धेश्च परतन्त्रस्थिता तथा They cannot hear.
I think so. That's what Kalpana ji said. Kalpana ji, you can't hear?
Now it is okay, they said.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we were seeing last class the four Bauddha Mata. Sautrantika Matam, Vaibhashika Matam, Yogachara Matam, Madhyamika Matam. Now they are grouped into two. The first two is called Hinayana Bauddha Matam. The second two is called Mahayana Bauddha Matam. Now one is championing Dvaitam, that is, the world is real. Whatever that we see is real. The other one is like Vedanta, the world is not real. Now this is what we saw last time. Now the 24th verse onwards, the Gaudavadacharya is not answering to Hinayana people much. Why? Because Hinayana people are automatically negated by Mahayana. So now he is he's telling that what is their standpoint. Okay, 24th verse we saw Pratnyapte sa nimittatva. Pratnyaptehe sa nimittatvam, sannimittatvam. Every experience or knowledge that we get should have a corresponding external object. This is the Hinayana philosophy. Because in the absence of external object, you cannot have varieties of knowledge. Because in sleep there is no external world, and therefore I don't have varieties of cognition. But in the waking I have varieties of knowledge as I see the objects one after the other. So every internal knowledge is possible because there is a corresponding object. Pada is there means Padartha also should be there. Therefore he argues every internal knowledge presupposes existence of an external object. If there are varieties of knowledge, internal means there are varieties of objects outside, external. Therefore, Hinayani says every knowledge proves that there is an object exists externally. Therefore, Pratnyaptehe, knowledge, sa nimittatvam, because of nimitta outside. Nimitta means external object. Bahya artha, sa endowed with. So every cognition is endowed with corresponding objects outside. Conclusion is Bahyarthaha asti. Outside object exists. Their argument understood? So if you are having a thought, it is if there is a pada, a word, then padartha must be there. Padartha means object. Without an object, you cannot think. Can you? Suppose I say gadabada, chachapucha. Now what are you going to think? You think that Swamiji was okay so far. Suddenly he gone crazy, isn't it? That's all. But you cannot think of an object. So pada means padartha must be there. Anyatha, otherwise, if you do not accept this, you cannot explain the plurality of experiences. Dvaya nashaha, plurality of experience will be absent. Only when there exists varieties of objects, varieties of knowledge possible. So in the second line he gives another logic. We have got varieties of emotions, pleasure, pain, etc. And if I should have these different emotions, every pleasure or pain or other emotions must be caused by some external objects, either a person or a loss of an object or gain of an object, whatever it is. The pain of heat caused by fire, which is external. Now, first argument is, if I am experiencing a fire, then there is a fire outside. Second argument is, if I am experiencing heat in the body, then generating that experience, there must be a corresponding object called fire. Sanklesha, experience of pleasure, pain, etc. Sya upalabdhe, possible only there is an external object. Therefore, there is an external world which is different from me, and it is also real, because our pain is real, problems are real, so world is also real. Thus the Hinayanis argue. Paratantra astita mata. Paratantra astita tatha. Therefore, one has to accept that there is an existence of the external world. An external world accepted by any Hinayana matam or Dvaita darshanam. Paratantram here means all other systems or philosophy. Means Dvaitam. They all accept an external world which is real. This is Hinayana, and this has to be negated by Yogachara Bauddha. That is the 25th verse. They are called Bhahyarthavadins or Hinayani. Okay, next one, 25th. Prajnapte sannimitatvam ishyate yukti darshanad nimittasya nimittatvam इष्यते भूतदर्शनात्
इष्यते भूतदर्शनात् प्रज्ञप्ते सन्निमित्तत्वम् इष्यते युक्तिदर्शनात् निमित्तस्यानिमित्तत्वम् इष्यते भूतदर्शनात्.
Yogachara matam refutes Hinayana matam. First he says, superficially looking, what you say is very correct. Because every experience must have a corresponding object. Every pratyaya should have a pratyaya vishaya. This is true. Therefore, I agree with you. But when I look into detail, I find that the external object disappears on probing. When you look into the reality of the object, especially which is the cause for the cognition, that object disappears. Now, example, bangle, chain, ring, etc. We have three different words, and so too we have three different thoughts corresponding to the object. But that when you look into the details of chain and bangle, ring, etc., those three objects have no real existence. There is no substance called bangle, ring, or chain. There is only one substance called gold. Therefore, first thing we come to know is there are no three substances. Only for the word gold there is a corresponding object. But for other words, there are no corresponding independent object. Once the object is negated, what is the use of holding on to the words? Once you negate the padarthas, there is no padam to hold on to. Therefore, Yogachara and Vedanta says padam and padarthas are both mithya. Bangle, chain, ring, padam. And padarthas are also mithya because bangle, chain, ring, padarthas does not exist separate from gold. Similarly, when you analyze gold, that also reduced to something else. Gold is a name given to a bunch of molecules. There is no padartha called gold. Better diamond is better, right? Yeah. Go deeper, the objects and the words disappear. Science has proved that we are nothing but what? Molecules, right? Permutation and combination of atom. Finally, adhisthānam alone will remain. So how do you prove this? This is very scientific, okay? So all these things are there in our Shastra, okay? It was there. It's not that science has suddenly found out and all that. It is still there. It is there. In Bhagavatam, there is a particular portion, third canto. There is an analysis on time. And time, I have written that they have divided time into something like 165 divisions. So they have calculated what is time. Sitting under a tree, no laboratory, no microscope, nothing. They say the sunlight passes through a lotus petal. That time is the unit of time. Now they have multiplied that into so many divisions. Finally, they come to a nimisham. In English also, what is the unit of time? Second, right? Why it is called second?
It comes after something.
Say, what is time? What is the definition of time? An interval between two events, right? First event, there is no time. Only the second event, there is time. So English also very correct word. Second. Now the second, that second is divided, let us say, microseconds. Now you divide the second into microseconds. What happens? Time disappears, isn't it? When time disappears, what is there? Present moment disappears. And what is there? Presence. That presence is Bhagavan. Very beautiful analysis there in Bhagavatam. It's the same idea here also. If you analyze any object, see, immediate cause we can find out. Ultimate cause, what? That objectivity disappears. So, pratnyaptehe sannimittatve. It is to be accepted that every knowledge has got a corresponding object, nimittam. Pratnyapti, knowledge. Yukti darshanat, if you go by logic. Bhuta darshanat, if you inquire into reality. Is there a thing called bangle? Bhuta means tattvam, reality. So-called external substance become non-substantial. So world is a word. Remove the L. Remove the L means what? Lord. Then what is there is no substance called world. In dream also we see external object. On waking up, what happens? All of them disappear, isn't it? So too this also. Now, Gaudapatacharya or Vedanta is not telling that you are not seeing the world. Please, it will be very illogical, impractical also. We are seeing the world. Yes, definitely. Like you see in dream also, you see the dream world. It is real at that time. The tiger chasing you in the jungle, it's real. And your palpitation also real. After waking from the dream also the palpitation continue. Isn't it? Very real. It's outside also. But all of them are what? Your own mind, your own thoughts. Same way here also, this waking world also is not your dream, it is somebody else's dream. We are part of his dream. So superficially looking, everything looks real. But when you inquire into the cause, it disappears. Now, if you want to know this, you go to a mental hospital. Talk to one of those patients there. They see things which are not there. What was that movie came? That Beautiful Mind. Huh? Beautiful Mind, yeah. That professor in Princeton University. He started seeing something. But that girl was not growing also. It's real for him. So, what is there in an object? If you really look at it, it disappears. So, even though there is no snake, he feels there is a snake. He also feels it is bit him and the poison is coming, and up to all that, he becomes pale and all that. Okay. Continuing. So that argument doesn't hold. That Chittam na samsrishatyartham Narthabhasam tathaiva cha Abhuto hi yataschartho Narthabhasattata prithak. And therefore, Yogacara says, there is no external world at all. Consciousness alone is there. And consciousness does not come into contact with any external object at all. Why? Because there is no object for the consciousness to come in contact with. And therefore he says, Arthamna samsprishati. The consciousness does not come in contact with any real object at all. Why? Because there is no real object. Then the question will come, can the consciousness come in contact with an unreal object? He wants some contact. So Yogacharya and Gaudavatacharya says, Na arthabhasam na samsprishayati. Consciousness does not contact with an unreal object also, because an unreal object does not exist separate from consciousness. And if there is no object separately existing, how can consciousness make contact? Gold does not contact an unreal bangle. Gold does not touch a real bangle also. Why? Gold is bangle. Touching is possible only there are two things, right? Here there are no two things. Because there is no unreal bangle separate from gold. Gold will never contact or touch the bangle. If gold has to touch the bangle, there must be two things. Here it is, because gold and bangle are two names for one substance. Therefore, matter is not separate. That's why we say abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. Abhinnam is to be underlined. Therefore, matter is not separate. It is a mistaken name given to the consciousness itself. There is no second substance called matter. So matter and consciousness are only two names for one and the same absolute reality. Namadvayam vastu ekam. Therefore, from the wise man's angle, Chaitanyam is the truth. From ignorant person's angle, it is called world or matter. The words are different, but substance is only one. Therefore, Chittam, here Chittam means Chaitanyam. Okay. The consciousness cannot contact anything because there is no second thing at all. Therefore he says yataha, because arthaha, abhutaha, no object is separate from consciousness. Na arthabhasaha, there is no non-existence mithya padartham also. Only when there are two independent things exist, contact is possible. So that is the point. Chittam here means Chaitanyam, that is to be corrected. Okay, 27. Nimittam na sada chittam samsprashat संस्पृशत्यध्वसूत्रिषु अनिमित्तो विपर्यासः कथं तस्य भविष्यति. So Yogacara Mata gives yes conclusion in the first line. Chittam nimittam sada na samsprishati. Consciousness does not come in contact with any object at all. Nimittam, a material object. Chittam, consciousness. So consciousness, Vishayam na samsprishayati. Sada samsprishati. Sada at any time. Trishu adhvasu, in all the three periods of time. Chittam nimittam sada na samsprishati. Consciousness does not come in contact with any object at all. Example, space. See, in the space all objects are there, but space is not touching anything. Touching in the sense, not contaminated by that. So when you touch something, you have to wash your hand, right? So that is the idea. So there is no, because the hand has got some attribute, the object also got some attribute. Both connects. Therefore touching is possible. But here, Akasha has no attribute. So what happened? Object is there, but it doesn't get contaminated. That's why space never get polluted. Atmosphere get polluted. That's the idea. Best example is Akasha. Now comes a possible doubt. Now this person who wants to establish that in the external world he is raising establish that there is an external world. Now he is raising a question. The question is not there in the sloka, only the answer is there in the second line. Question is, if you don't accept an external world, how do you differentiate right knowledge or wrong knowledge or error? Normally we do use the expression right knowledge or wrong knowledge. And how do we normally differentiate right and wrong knowledge? In Vedanta we talk about rope knowledge and snake knowledge. One person has got rope knowledge and the second person has got snake perception. And we say the rope knowledge is the right knowledge and the snake knowledge is the wrong knowledge. Now, based upon what? How do you say which is right and which is wrong? You differentiate by tallying the perception with the external object and say this is right and this is wrong, right? Rope knowledge and the object of rope outside both are in concurrence. Then we say this is the right knowledge. Then what is the definition of wrong knowledge? When the knowledge that I have and the object outside are not in agreement, then it is called wrong knowledge. Okay, this is from Tarka Shastra. So they use Tarka. That means what? What right and wrong division is possible only if you tally the knowledge with an external object. That means what? External object is there. Dvaita Prapancha is there. And if you do not accept an external object at all, what will be the problem? Then you cannot talk about right knowledge and wrong knowledge. Thus the Dvaita philosopher argues with Gaudavadacharya and Yogacharya. Now what is the answer? Think about an answer. Don't dismiss Dvaitis as just Dvaitians. They are very powerful. Arguments are there. Now for that Yogacharya says, I don't accept right knowledge or wrong knowledge division at all. Because the whole externality itself is wrong. Therefore he says, like in dream, the rope knowledge is correct or snake knowledge is correct. In dream there is no real rope, and rope, snake, both are projections. Therefore he says, Viparyasaha katham. How can you talk about right, wrong division? Animittaha, when there is no object at all outside. He says rope is also not there. What are you talking about, snake? Therefore, there is no question of explaining the error. Because there are no external object at all exist. Therefore, there is no world separate from the observer. If you say there is a world, then you are in dream. Then what about classes? That is also taking place in dream. Hoping that the student will wake up. Now, experience does not prove reality. Example, dream itself. We have a clear experience of an external object also. Even though during the dream, we are, we are sure we have experiences, and we are very sure corresponding to every experience there is an external object also. But on waking up, we discover the shocking truth that there were no object at all separate from the observer. And therefore, superficially seeing there is an external world, and closer scrutiny, there is no world separate from the observer. Now, this is to be contemplated, okay? There is no world separate from observer. There is no chain separate from gold. That means what? Apply that theory. Sarvam Brahmamayam. Re re. Sarvam Brahmamayam. In one way, you can think that everything is happening in Brahman. Transaction is happening. Seeing, Pashyan, Shranvan, Spashan, Jigran, Nashnan, Gachan, Sapan, Susan. Pralapan visajan ghannan unmishan nimishan napi indriyani indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan. 5th chapter of Gita. So the closer scrutiny, there is no world separate from the observer. It's a very profound statement. Thus we dismiss the world and come to the word. Once we come to the word, we also dismiss the word. Because what is the purpose of a word without any corresponding object? First you dismiss the object, pot, and later we dismiss the word pot also. Thus all the padams and all the padarthams resolves into adhishthanam. And that adhishthanam is Chaitanya. So akara and the sthula padartha. See, we are going back to Omkara. You see, akara is sthula padartha. So that means sthula padartha means gross objects. Ukara is sukshma padartha, subtle objects. Makara is karana padartha. So thus a, u, ma, the padam and sthula, sukshma, karana, padartha, all the three pairs will resolve into one adhisthana chaitanyam turiyam, which is the ultimate reality. Therefore, Yogacara said there is no world other than observer. So with this 27th verse, Yogacara and Gaudapadacharya refuted the Sauntrantika matam, so Bhāhyartha Pratyakshavadinaha, and Vaibhashika matam, Bhāhyartha Anumanavadinaha. Together they are called Hinayana Bauddha matam. Now after refuting the 1 and 2, he is going to catch hold of the very Yogachara matam. So far he was joining with him. Change the alliance and conclude our negation. 28th. Tasmanna jayate chittam chitta drishyam na jayate tasya pashyanti ye jatim khevai pashyanti te padam. Tasmat chitta drishyam na jayate. Therefore, tasmat, therefore, an external world is not at all born, and therefore there is no such thing called external world. Chitta drishyam literally means an object of experience. Na jayate, there are not at all there. They are not at all there. They are not at all born. Then you should not ask, okay, external objects are not born, but is it existent? How can that be when the very creation is negated? Where is the question of a world existing outside other than you? Therefore, the world is neither born nor does it exist outside. Therefore, there is no world at all. Then what about the world that I am experiencing? This world is mithya, and this world does not exist separate from me. Then how come I feel it is real? In dream also you feel the dream world is real. Just because you feel real does not means, just because you feel does not mean it is real. Hey Yogachara, your philosophy is also wrong. Now we should know how Yogachara's philosophy and how it is different from Advaita. Vedanta has to be very clear, otherwise you get confused. Not confused, you will join them. That's the problem. Now, what are the common features? That also we should know. And where do we differ? That also we should know. Both of them commonly say that there is no objects separately from consciousness. There is no matter separate from consciousness. There is no jada vastu separate from chaitanya vastu. Jadam is mithya and chaitanyam is satyam. Yogacharya says this. And Advaita also says this. Then where do we disagree? The disagreement is in arriving at the nature of consciousness. That there is no matter, there is no disagreement. But what is the nature of real Chaitanyam? In this we disagree. What do they say? Now Yogachara Matam says, consciousness is a fleeting, momentary, flickering consciousness. Therefore he calls it as Chanikam Vijnanam. They are also called Chanika Vijnanavadis. Big consciousness. Therefore, as per Yogachara, the meaning of the word I, the subject, is temporary, fleeting consciousness. Therefore, I am momentary. Who says Chanika Vijnanavadi? Then naturally we ask him this question, how do you say if you are momentary? I am the fleeting one, I am not a fleeting one, I have been existing yesterday, today, etc. I have been existing continuously. How do you say I am the momentary consciousness? For that, Yogacara says, you are not one momentary consciousness, but you are a series of flickering consciousness, which constantly come and go. So it's a pravaham. So the first Chanika Vijnanam comes and exists for one moment, and then the next momentary consciousness will replace the first one, and so on. Because there is no gap. This I, the Atma, is a constant flow of momentary consciousness. And because of this continuous flow, it looks as though there is a permanent Atma. There is no permanent Atma, but there is only one permanent flow of temporary bits of Atma. Therefore, permanent consciousness is a wrong concept. Brahma. And to convey this, he gives two examples. Perennial flow of Ganga. If you look at the river, there is no permanent Ganga because the river is in constant flow. You think the same Ganga that you took bath in the last year's Kumbh Mela, the same Ganga this year also? It is a Brahma. Ganga is not a constant river, but it is a non-stop flowing water. Why last year, last moment you touched is not available this moment for you? Can you take bath in the same Ganges every day? No. There is only a permanent flow of temporary water. There is no permanent Ganga. Similarly, there is no permanent Atma, temporary consciousness constantly arriving and departing. Jala pravahavat kshanika vijnana pravaha Atma. Nitya Chaitanyam does not exist. Now, number 2 example, this is of the flame. You feel there is a permanent flame. Looks like the same flame is continuously existing, but on inquiry you discover that the same flame does not exist. If the flame is permanently existent, then the oil will never get depleted. How come the oil is getting depleted? He argues, the first flame is drawn from the first drop of oil, and that goes away, and again the oil is there which nourishes next flame. The flame is getting constantly renewed by the oil which is getting depleted. Therefore, the flame of the first moment and the flame of the second moment are not the same. They are only similar, not the same. It gives a confusion that there is a permanent flame. Permanent flame is a Brahma, and permanent river is a Brahma. So too permanent consciousness is a Brahma. Who says? Yogacara Matam. Since consciousness is momentary, every moment a consciousness is born and dies. Thus Chaitanyam is born and gone. Gaudapadacharya refutes that philosophy in 3 words. Chittam Chaitanyam, consciousness na jayate, not at all born. Therefore, you cannot talk about Anitya Chaitanyam. And Gaudapadacharya does not give logic or reasoning because he feels it is very, very easy, and therefore he dismisses it very briefly. But Shankaracharya both in his Mandukya commentary as well as Brahma Sutra and other places, he elaborately argues against this. Let us see one or two reasons in this context. Shankaracharya asks a question, Hey Yogachara, you are talking about the flow of fleeting consciousness, and you say that is the Atma, I. So that means what? According to you, the first momentary consciousness arrived. Let us call it consciousness number 1. And it disappears and replaced by consciousness number 2. And that also disappears and give room to consciousness number 3. Now Shankaracharya asks this question, tell me, who is talking about the flow of consciousness? Who is watching this arrival and departure? Or is it the second one talk about the flow or the third one talk about the flow? Number 1 cannot talk about the arrival of number 2. Why? When the number 2 comes, number 1 is gone. And number 2 can never talk about the departure of number 1. When number 2 comes, number 1 is not there. Therefore, 1 cannot talk about 2, and 2 cannot talk about 1, and 2 cannot talk about 3 also. When the 3 arrives, number 2 is gone. Therefore, no single member can talk about the flow of Kshanika Vijnanam. If there is someone who can talk about the flow, means he has to be outside the flow. Therefore, the law is the one who talks about arrival and departure does not arrive or depart. The one who witnessed the arrival and departure does not change. He is kutasthaha. So you got the argument. Therefore, if there is an anitya chaitanyam, it can be talked about only by a nitya chaitanyam. And therefore, we correct Yogacharya and say, Hey Yogachara, you have committed a big mistake. What is that mistake? He has taken thought as consciousness. Because thought come and depart. What he talks about Kshanika Vijnanam is nothing but Kshanika Vritti alone. Then Shankaracharya says, Kshanika Vritti come and go, and these arriving and departing thoughts are witnessed by the Nitya Chaitanyam. And that witness consciousness does not come and go. So what is the reality? Not Kshanika Vijnanam, but Nitya Vijnanam. And what is the difference between Yogachara and Vedanta? Anitya Vijnanam is the ultimate reality for Yogachara, and Nitya Vijnanam is reality for Advaitam. That is why Taittiriya Upanishad said, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Anantam Jnanam means it does not have birth. Therefore, Gaudapadacharya concludes, Nitya Chaitanyam na jayate. That much only he says. Then he says, Ye tasya jatim pashyanti. Unfortunately, the Yogacharya philosopher, tasya jatim pashyanti, they are falsely talking about jati. Jati means birth here. Jati means not a caste here. Don't translate it as caste, then there's a problem. Jati, birth and death of the external consciousness. Actually, what is born and gone is thought in the mind. The awareness principle is there, beginning and end of every thought, arrival and departure. You are there. A thought rises, you are there. A thought continue to exist, you are there. Thought disappears, you are still there. Te padam, they are seeing the footprints of the flying birds in the sky. Means they are saying something which is not there. Ke means akasha, akashe. Thus, three systems have been negated so far. Now, who is left is the Madhyamikavadins, who says nothing is there, called Shunyavadins. If you say nothing is there, means you are also not there. If you yourself is not there, your philosophy also not there. Then why should I refute you? But Shankaracharya refutes Shunyavadins also. He didn't give up. But Gaudavacharya didn't waste time for that. With this, Buddhism topic is over. Now continuing 29th verse. Ajatam jayate yasmat ajati pragadistataha prakriteranyatha bhavaha na kathanchit bhavishyati. So with the previous verse, Gaudapadacharya concluded all his refutation of the other systems. With this refutation part, that part is over. Now Gaudapadacharya is worried. For the sake of refutation, we have talked about Dvaitam, Sankhya, Bauddha, etc. Having discussed all other systems, we should not forget what Vedanta teaches. See, sometimes we get lost. Therefore, in the following passages, he is going to restate the Vedanta Siddhanta from 29 to 46 verse. Consciousness alone is truth and eternal, and the world is mithya. Consciousness does not produce a real world. Ajadivadaha, that he is reinstating. Ajatam jayate. The other system of philosophies claim that the eternal Brahman is the cause of the universe, that it produces the world. Ajatam akaranam Brahman. When they say Brahman is the cause, they are assuming Brahman is subject to change. Parinama. Because to be a cause, it has to undergo a change. But the truth is, Brahman is changeless. Therefore, it cannot produce any real creation. Changelessness is the nature of Brahman. Karya Karana Vilakshanam Param. The word Prapanchopashamam means there is no Karya or Karana Prapanchas. Prakritehe anyatha bhavaha na katham-chit bhavishyati. Changeless nature of Brahman will ever be the same. Prakriti, the real nature of Brahman, then what is world? World is a confusion. On the other hand, if you strongly believe that the world has come from Brahman, you cannot get out of samsara, because the world is inviting permanent bondage. Isn't it? Huh? Think. Okay, we'll stop here today. Hope you have enough. Now here onwards it is Vedanta up to 49, 46 verse. He is reinstating the Ajadivada. He is going to give a famous mantra. Adavante chennasti vartamaneti tatthatha. That is his stick. That which was not there before, that which will not be there later, in between also it is not there. Adavante chennasti vartamaneti tatthatha. So you are not there. What is there? What are you? Paramatma only. Name and form, it is not the substance. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.